So during the past 30 years, I've been working with sustainable development in 61 countries throughout the world. And when the Sustainable Development Goals were launched in 2015, I really felt that we had a smart roadmap for all countries and people to reach holistic sustainability in the whole world. And on a global level, there was no doubt that we had the means, the knowledge, and the technology to reach the SDGs. Today, we are exactly halfway through the journey to reach the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's quite apparent that we must be doing something wrong. So if it's not linked to the means or the technology on a global level, it must have to do with our mindsets. We must be doing something wrong. A number of organizations, people, companies, and academic institutions in Sweden and globally gathered and asked themselves, what are we really doing wrong? And what do we need to improve in order to accelerate the work to reach sustainability in this world? The question they asked themselves was, so what are the inner capacities, qualities, or skills that are essential on an individual or collective level in order to accelerate the SDG work? A survey was sent out and interviews were conducted with over 1,000 respondents all over the world. The report is available on the Inner Development Goals webpage. And there were several conferences organized around the human flourishing and the inner capacities that would be necessary for us to identify and develop in order to reach sustainability. The capacities were discussed by researchers from MIT, Stockholm School of Economics, Harvard Business Schools, etc., etc. And finally, they agreed to divide these into 5 categories, so it could be easily understood for people like you and me. And those categories are being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting. Let's have a look at those capacities. And just like the SDGs are very much interlinked, you cannot achieve sustainable health without eradicating poverty. So all those SDGs are interlinked and contribute to each other. The same goes, of course, for the Inner Development Goals. And of course, the Inner Development Goals are completely interlinked with the Sustainable Development Goals. Let's have a look at the first category, and it has to do with the relationship to yourself. It's called being. Here we're talking about qualities like having an inner compass, having integrity and being authentic, openness and a learning mindset, self-awareness, and something I have great difficulties with, being present in the here and now and not thinking too much about the past and not too much about the future. I'd like to share one example of a leader that I have worked with for more than 30 years, who really demonstrates many of the being capacities. And in particular, I believe the first one, an inner compass. It's the lady on the picture here. She was born in a village, Putu, south of the capital Harare of Zimbabwe. She was a child of 8 and she had several elder brothers, but she always knew that there was something special about her. She grew up, got a degree in accounting, started working with accounting in a security company, got married, and unfortunately her husband fell very ill and he died in cancer. And one of the last things he said to her was, "Divine," that is her name, "you must follow your dreams." And she said, "Yes, I will." And she came back to her kitchen table and reflected on, so what are my dreams? Well, my dream is to start a business. But in what sector? I think there's a space in the security sector. So here's this African woman who starts the first security company run by a woman. And not only that, she was now a single mother. So she hired single mothers as guards. You can imagine what the reaction from the market was. "No, I need a big, strong man to guard my house." And she just said, "Nope. I promise you that these women will do a better job than the men. Otherwise, you will get your money back. They don't sleep at work. They don't drink at work. And they don't get bribed by the burglars." She started with 4 employees, and today she has 5,000 employees. She has been awarded so many, she has been nominated to so many awards, and one of them was African Entrepreneur of the Year, where she received a prize from Richard Branson. The second category was about thinking, our cognitive skills, capacities such as critical thinking, complexity awareness, perspective skills, sense making, and long-term orientation and visioning. And here I would like to share an example of Guillermo. Guillermo from Colombia, another person I worked with in one of my trainings. And he was actually in Sweden. And when he came back to Colombia, 2 of his staff were kidnapped by the FARC guerrilla. He was running a construction company and he had to first go and see the families and calm them down and say, "We will get your husband's fathers back." And then he had to start paying. And he paid and he paid and he paid. And eventually he didn't have any more money to pay. So he went into the jungle and discussed with the guerrilla. He was very afraid, but he discussed with them and said, "I don't have any more money. You can see that on my bank accounts." And they said, "Yeah, but you have machines like trucks and cranes and such things." And he said, "Yeah, but if I give that to you, I cannot make any money. So what are you going to do with the machines?" Eventually, he ended up leasing his own machines from them. And when he got his staff back, and when he had paid off his debt to the guerrilla, you would imagine that he was quite angry with them. But a few years down the line, there was a peace agreement discussed and negotiated in Colombia. And Guillermo was one of the people who argued, "We must help these people integrate into our society. I will hire them and I will train them because they need to have a normal life." That for me is somebody who really has very good perspective skills. The third category is about relating, how we care for other people in the world. We have qualities like appreciation, connectedness, humility, empathy, and compassion. And one of the people I would like to use an example here is Protima from Bangladesh, who has decided to start a business using jute as a raw material to produce shopping bags for companies like Target in the United States and other big chains. She did this long before plastic was banned. She employed women in her society, and she realized that they cannot come to work unless we cater for their children. So she started a kindergarten next to the factory. That for me is great proof of empathy and compassion. The fourth category is about collaborating, our social skills, communication skills, co-creation skills, inclusive mindset and intercultural competence, trust, and mobilization skills. The picture here is of Andreas Foller, one of my friends. He's the sustainability officer at Scania, and he actually achieved the Sustainability Manager of the Year award just a few days ago. And when he got the question, what is the most important condition for you to be able to drive sustainability in your organization? He said, trust. Trust from the management and trust from my co-workers and trust from the clients and the investors. And I think if you want to receive trust, you really need to also earn it. The fifth and last category we have in the IDGs is acting, because all the other categories are a prerequisite for us all to be able to act, to drive change. Here we have qualities like courage, creativity, optimism, and perseverance. And here I would like to mention Gupret Kent, that I've been mentoring for a couple of years, who was so frustrated after she got her degree in engineering in Canada and came back to her home country, which is Kenya, where she saw that there were plastic bottles all over the place and there was no system for collecting these bottles. She decided to start a factory to recycle these bottles into yarn that in turn would be used for the fashion industry. And I helped her connect with companies like H&M and Patagonia, and her business case was really there. And when she spoke to some of the donors, they basically recommended her to go into, oh, why don't you go into solar energy instead? And she said, but no, this is what I want to do. This is my contribution. So eventually she went to Coca-Cola in the country, and they of course teamed up with her. They want to be responsible for the bottles that they are bringing into the country. So this is the framework with the 5 categories and 23 capacities. And of course, it needs to be tested, it needs to be validated, it needs to be applied in a practical way. So right now, the IDGs are going to a phase where we are going to test the framework. We're developing a capacity development program that will be launched in 5 countries in the world. And the idea is to, based on that, co-create with our partners a field kit and communication system that will be available for everyone who wants to use it in the world. We still have not selected the countries. It is based on the commitment of the countries, with the stakeholders, of course, including government, private sector, and civil society. On the 23rd of April, there will be a global launch of the IDGs. It will be a conference taking place in Stockholm at the Concert Hall of Stockholm, but also online through local IDG hubs that are being created worldwide. And we want to welcome anybody who wants to take part of this event. And if you want to know more about the Inner Development Goals, all you need to do is to go into our website, and please get in touch. We want to include as many as possible. Thank you for listening.